What's up, guys? You know what night it is? Friday night, off-centered, with my co-host, Dustin, the personal finance dad. And we got a very special guest with the kickoff of football last night of NFL season. We got one of the most knowledgeable people in the whole fantasy football world, my best friend, Andy Kaysen, a.k.a. the Fantasy Football Card Quest. He literally just popped on 9 seconds ago, so hopefully his audio and visuals work well. I thought he was going to relive my 14th birthday when he didn't show up, but fortunately he made it in the nick of time. Anyway, guys, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight. I'm so excited for football season, as you can see. So with that being said, welcome back. Now let's get to work. Good to see you in the chat already. Brian Sherland. We got Adventures with Troy here as well. Yeah, Tom Brady is just unbelievable. Troy, good to see you. And, of course, Mike C. always here right off the bat. Let's bring in the first guest, the one that no one cares about, the one that is sleeping.
Oh, it's 10 p.m. Eastern here. I don't know what time it is in L.A., but I've got a family, man. This is late.
You don't have a family. You made all of that up just because it fits with your brand.
I'm like, I've got a family. This is my prison cell right here. Hey, Rodney, keep it down. Rodney, shut up. I'm live.
I could guess what your role is in prison. I could guess which role you would be if you went to prison.
Oh, I'm owning prison. Okay, I've got this.
Have you seen the movie Get Hard with Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart?
I've seen pieces of it. I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
it's a really funny movie. Really funny movie. Anyway, man, how's everything going? How's your week?
It's been good. It's been slammed, honestly. I mean, but I feel like I say that every week, so it's kind of par for the course. But no, I mean, all in all, it's been a pretty good week. How about you?
With creating content that will just die in 24
hours?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm unhappy that I'm only getting out about 9 videos a day. So it's upsetting, but I'm just kind of rolling with it. Just doing I want to believe it's the best I can, but is it? And I'm talking to my wife about. Yeah, I mean, well,
dang, that's the best you can do. I thought you were just cruising by.
I'm talking to my wife about multiple cameras in the house and different things, and she's pushing back a little bit, rudely and selfishly. So I don't know if we're going to be able to get more content out, but we're working at it.
Dude, remember, you've got to overwhelm the YouTube servers with hourly content.
I want it to be like the Matrix, where you like we're infiltrating and we're breaking it. That's kind of what it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right. Well, anyway, we go over that every week. I don't put out enough content. You put out too much. Brian, it's a medium. It's a adult medium, but I'm putting on some muscle. I'm actually that's the difference. I'm going to the gym. Dustin is not. He's just getting soft. Let's see here. Ryan, what's up, man? Good to see you. I know that's a great card. I know Dustin would approve, and so would Andy as well. Jace, yeah, the Tampa Bay defense. Dak looked good. It's the secondary that's always concerned me, and they're aggressive. They get a lot of penalties, and then once in a while they'll have a turnover.
And they got hurt last night. And the secondary got hurt.
The secondary got hurt. Defensive line I thought looked fine. Linebackers are just stacked. They're great linebackers, but Dak looked good. And it was actually I'll bring Andy on. We'll talk about the game briefly, but I thought it was a great game because it looked like a reality check for the Bucs without them having to lose. You know what I mean? Like. When teams get humbled, when they lose a lot, and then they understand they got to work on a lot, I felt like the Bucs knew that we got to work on a lot, yet we still got the W versus having to lose. So as a Bucs fan, that was great. Good to see a Blaster Brandon Sports Cards. I really like that logo you got there, that Blaster Brandon, like the upper deck. Michael Ham, that's right, man. Very close. I think we went over some of these. Steven Ryan, good to see you as well. Cody, I'll say hi to Cody real quick. Good to see you, Cody. And Talatiga, good to see you as well. Happy Friday night. Carter, awesome, man. Yeah, banter is what we got. Dustin might know a little bit about cards, but I lead with insults. With that being said, we're going to bring on our guest in a second. He's going to answer some of these football questions for you. Who's overrated right now? Who's underrated? What to look for based on all the fantasy metrics and how we can use that so that we can make better football card investing decisions and where we need to draw the line so that we don't use just fantasy for our decisions, but we incorporate other things because the two worlds are different, though they do overlap. All right, so let's bring him in. Andy,
Oh. It's my cue. It's my cue, man.
That's your intro, man. That's all
I was getting ready to go to bed too, Some people around here, we work during the day, Brad. We're on that East Coast time.
I got you. Hey,
I know.
man, it's not easy for me.
Brad's been meditating for 8 hours, and now he's ready for the live stream.
I got my dinner getting cold right here. I got like a whole plate of rice, brown rice getting cold. So I blame it on you guys. But what is this SP Daddy? I've never seen you have SP Daddy before.
The SP Daddy, man. That's me. That's actually what I've coined my fantasy team names this year.
Is that? I'm assuming that's short print.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I'm like, I have no idea. Okay. So what's up, man? What did you think of the game last night? You're a big Bucs fan. You know a lot about fantasy. Did it go according to plan or what?
I mean, according to plan, yeah, we got the W. That was intense, man. I got to tell you, I barely slept since that game last night. That was intense. I mean, that was a nail biter. That's got to be one of the best season opening games in NFL history. I mean, that's got to be up there.
And both quarterbacks shine too.
Yeah, the Cowboys put up more of a fight than I thought. I kind of felt like it was going to be, because a lot of times you watch these openers and like the Super Bowl champ just kind of rolls over the visiting team. Like last year, it was Kansas City, that came through and smoked. Who was their rookie running back last year that lit it up?
Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
Yeah. And I remember, actually, I specifically remember, like, he had a Donruss rookie out, and it went from like $5 to like $60 after he had that great opening game, and then it came back down to like $9 or whatever. But yeah, no, I expected the Bucs to really kind of smoke the Cowboys, and they put up a fight.
Yeah, Dak's ankle mobility, his mobility looks great. I mean, he looks really healthy. I think you could see a little bit of still lingering issue with that back lat muscle with him on his deep balls. But he had some beautiful throws. I mean, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb both went off. I mean, CeeDee Lamb since the game last night has had over 400 rookie card sales. Probably by right now, he's probably over 500, I would imagine. It's going pretty wild for him right now.
So let me ask you, from a Cowboys perspective, looking in from fantasy football and what you've been studying, do the Cowboys look on par with what you thought, or what the experts say, or do they look better or worse because they lost?
It's on par with what I thought. I've been drafting Amari Cooper, one of my favorite targets in fantasy drafts all off season, in like the 4th and 5th round. He's been falling to me, and he's still the alpha wide receiver in Dallas. And you have a healthy Dak Prescott. I mean, we're talking double-digit targets every week, 100-plus receiving yards, multiple touchdowns. The Cowboys are going to put up incredible numbers this year. They're also in a very soft division, that NFC East. They get to play the Giants twice, the Eagles twice. The only team that's got a pretty solid defense that could give them maybe some more troubles is Washington, but they've got a pretty favorable schedule, and it's going to be offensive fireworks for Dallas this year.
To go back to Brett real quick, I think, Brad could play the lead for Tom Brady, but I would have to be the stump double to come in and actually throw the passes, because I can't imagine that Brad can throw a football. I could throw it.
You would play Drew Brees just getting sacked left and right. You'd play the water boy that Tom Brady yells at and throws like a canister at.
I'd play Drew Brees. That's actually that's not about right.
I was actually picturing Dustin as a ref.
But he has to be like a ref that gets hit by like a missed tackle and like flies to the ground.
Holding, and I can just get like blasted.
Tom Brady's upset and he throws the ball and hits your head like I think it was not enough Varsity Blues. I think it was Varsity Blues. There's something like that where the quarterback threw the ball at the referee and hit him in the head just because he was upset. I can see that as well.
Dustin could be Mac Jones. I'm getting either Giselle or Mac Jones, and we're all over the map. We're all over the map in the chat.
Well, you're gonna have to wear a wig, Dustin. We got to see how good of a Giselle you'd pull off.
I actually need to gain some weight to play Mac Jones. I have to add a few more pounds to play Mac.
Jeez.
Here's the one interesting thing is that football, the big difference between football and basketball, baseball, and hockey is that we can digest a game for an entire week. And so even before this, I was asking Andy and I was asking Dustin, I was wondering, can we see what the strength of schedule is week to week? Because one of the, I'd say most underrated or underutilized strategies could be looking for a team that plays 3 horrible teams in a row, because that means you got 3 weeks where a good team or a decent team can play a bunch of losers, and those prices can go up if they go 3-0 and put up some big numbers. But if it's basketball or baseball or hockey, 3 games disappears in 3 days or up to like a week and a couple days. So there's not a lot of time to buy and sell. So in terms of strength of schedule, have you guys, I know there's overall strength of schedule. Is there anything more detailed than that you have seen, Andy? Like in terms of weeks 4 through 9, this team will be against a very soft schedule based on last year's results. But then week 10 through 15, they're against all playoff contenders. So that's when they'll probably lose a bunch.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely, man. You could look at the implied point totals from Vegas on a weekly basis and, predict out which games are going to be likely to be shootouts. Of course, we have the strength of schedule for the entire year, based on the win percentages from last year. So you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have the hardest strengths of schedule this year. They're in a very difficult division, and their opponents all have over a 50% win percentage in 2020. And they start out week 1 as probably the biggest game of the week against the Buffalo Bills. But yeah, that's definitely stuff that we could look at, we could forecast, we could project. A lot of what I'm doing right now is looking at those Vegas point totals, implied point totals, what I meant to say, and looking at wide receiver, cornerback matchups, looking at the pass blocking efficiencies of the offense, and looking at the strength of the pass rush on the defense. And you can forecast that out pretty much as far as you want for the entire season.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just something I'd like to look into more. I just wish there was something very easy to look at that wasn't paid or wasn't Vegas based, but it just showed a color coded chart of under 500, over 500, and just something where you could look at and say, all right, the Ravens week 8 to 12 have the softest schedule. Let me look at Lamar Jackson cards week 6 or 7 and where they're at, and then see if I can get in knowing what the next month holds. But I guess if you guys have that information or have that type of data, then definitely utilize it, because that's one advantage football has over the others. There was a really good question here. Go ahead.
I was going to say too, but before you jump into that, I was going to say, I feel like just to be careful, you'd have to do that on like a star stock or a ComC, just because those are going to be real quick flips. I would think like a small, and I guess what I mean is small window of opportunity with a lot of this stuff. Like, oh, so-and-so quarterback is hurt, new quarterback going in. You have like a 2-day window to sell, that quarterback, whoever it is, or yeah, you have a stretch where CeeDee Lamb breaks, has 3 touchdowns. You need to sell. It's like, do you have enough time to get listed on eBay and do an auction and all that? I don't know, maybe.
Well, so that's why if it's a 3 or 4 week window where, like, remember Russell Wilson last year went on that MVP caliber run where every single day they're talking about him as MVP for 4 weeks straight, but it was only 4 games in a row that they won and looked good in. So that's a whole month of the cards going up. So that means in week 3 or right after his last win, it's list the card at a 3-day auction, 5-day auction, and hopefully sell before the next game where maybe he looks average or loses. But it's just something we can't do in the other sports. So I see that advantage there. There's also a question by Global Sports Card Investor. I don't know if you saw this, Andy. Dustin, did you see this?
Yeah, I saw it.
So thoughts on card porn, hating on content creators that have sponsored content / affiliates and accusing them of pumping and dumping. I'd have to look at the post again, but when I saw the rationale, the comment section of it, or like what he put in terms of his explanation, it didn't seem attacking. I think it was more just questioning biases, right? Because like if you're promoting a company, if you are it's like even with market movers, for me, I use it and I'm an affiliate. I don't get paid by Sports Card Investor unless someone uses the link. So it's a direct affiliate. It's not a sponsorship, but it does make it harder to be completely unbiased because there is incentive, right? It's just like if eBay is a sponsor of a company or of a content creator, it's hard to bash eBay or be 100% objective especially in a negative light if they are paying part of your bills. It's tough. Like it's not saying it's impossible, but it's a very tough thing to do.
Yeah, I didn't see, and maybe I missed it, but I didn't see the pumping and dumping accusation part of it. I saw what you saw was the bias of, can you trust, a podcast, or can you trust a YouTube channel that is pushing certain sponsors? And I guess, obviously I think that you just have to take into account there's some bias there, regardless of how careful that podcast is or that YouTube channel or whatever it is. But I think though that a lot of the content creators are pretty good about it. I feel like, they're pretty good at understanding those biases and navigating it. And I think that a lot of them have it set up too, to where it's like, yes, they're a sponsor, but I can question them as much as I want, or I can, disagree with this feature or this, this product feature, whatever it is. So I think that Cardporn was just kind of trying to maybe, let people be aware of like, hey, look, there could be some bias, but all in all, I think that the hobby does a pretty decent job navigating it.
Yeah. Andy, did you see that at all, or what are your thoughts?
I have not seen that yet. But my thought on it is just transparency, like you guys are talking about, right? I mean, sure, there's players that I talk about that I am investing in myself. It's the whole thing. I'm eating at my own restaurant. Yeah, I'm talking about these guys as being good because these are the same guys that I'm buying, And if you guys want to hop on that bandwagon with me, then that's cool, Or I also highlight, statistical analysis of why I think a quarterback that may be out of my price range is going to continue to excel in the NFL. And there's a good chance that his rookie cards can continue to go up. But I'm always, presenting both sides of the story, looking at the possible downside of buying in a player's card, a specific card that could potentially lose money because it's already at a super high premium, So I think it's just a responsibility on our behalf to present both sides of the story and be fully transparent,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that, a lot of it too is just, for me, I'll talk about, or actually I talk about exactly what I own too. So if I'm talking about a specific player and it's like, I'm talking like, oh, I really like Jason Tatum. I also have 2 of his Optic Hollow rookie cards and a PSA 10 or whatever. Honestly, that's why I try to avoid as much as I can talking about individual cards that I own. So I'll talk about other cards that I don't own and why not I might like that player. But I really try to avoid stuff that I own, for that purpose.
Yeah. And out there, if you're not a content creator in this, it's a very tough thing to balance, because here's why. If you talk about a player or a card you believe in, chances are you own it, or you want to own the card or the player because you actually believe in it. So then it becomes a lot easier to say, I believe in this player. This is what I'm doing. But at the same time, the accusation of, well, you're only saying that to then sell at a premium, starts trickling in. And then you're like, all right, well, what do? Talk about players and cards I don't believe in because I don't own. So it's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
It's either like you're pumping your own bags, or you're not following your own advice and buying the stuff you're talking about. It's like one or the other. It can't be both. I think if I'm talking about cards that I do own, or just genres, not specific cards, but I like vintage football for this reason, and I'll talk about specific cards that I own. Like Andy said, transparency is the big thing. That's really everything.
And guys, we'll move on from this in a second. However, remember, you guys watch the news. If you turn on the TV and then all of a sudden any news station, they have commercials. Look at those commercials. They're not going to bash McDonald's and then have a McDonald's ad. So I don't, I'm very hesitant to watch the news and think and this is any station period, that it's objective, because they're having their bills paid too by all these companies that you see at the 28-minute mark and the 58-minute mark. So and it's a good thing to be aware of, period, that everything is a business and runs accordingly. So always keep that in mind, whether it's cards or anything you watch on TV. There's always someone pushing a product or service that is on the back end.
Really, we're all just trying to get a Fanatics sponsorship. So anything we can do, we're all going to be owned by Fanatics anyway at some point.
Yeah. Seriously, guys. Well, we hope. Fanatics, you are. I mean, look, the others I'll be objective about, but Fanatics, you guys rock no matter what. We can't wait to have you on board. We can't wait to be your go-to talk show. But anyway, football season starts last night. Obviously, we got the Bucs winning. Great for us Tampa fans. And then this Sunday, we got a lot of amazing games coming up. Heading into this season, I want to ask you, Andy, since you're the football guy, who is the player that everyone is clamoring over that you don't think will have a very good year, and why?
Ooh, man, I know I was probably gonna catch some hate in the comments for this one, but I mean the first guy I'm gonna mention is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, and it's the primary reason because of the type of injury that he had last year. I think he's going to be great potentially long term, but you got to understand the Cincinnati Bengals did not make any improvements to their offensive line the offseason. They're still a 25th in the league at best ranked offensive line, and Joe Burrow has looked absolutely terrible this preseason and throughout training camp. And I think his rookie cards are still really expensive, too high in my opinion.
So he's looked bad in what way? Because I haven't kept up. Just missed passes, interceptions. Is it conditioning? Is it injury related? What do you think?
Yeah, it's really timing. I mean, the type of injury that he has with the way you have to plant your legs to throw the ball, everything. It's timing. He's missing a lot of passes. The chemistry has not been there. So we'll see. He's got a lot to prove, man. But I think you take all that into consideration, then look at what his rookie cards are still trading at, his premium rookie cards, and that's why I say they're overvalued. They're overhyped right now.
Okay, and I'm actually going to look up Cincinnati's strength of schedule just out of curiosity because that's one thing I could easily check.
I think the AFC North in general has it tough if we're comparing to last year, because I think the Steelers have the #1 toughest schedule.
Yeah, in fact, maybe I share this. So this is a good thing,
Yeah.
and I don't know if this really works with other sports as well, just because there's so many games. However, check this out. I'm going to show you the strength of schedule. X out of that. You guys can see this okay, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is based on 2020 win percentage. So Steelers by far #1. Ravens, Bears, Packers. This is the toughest. Vikings. So you see here, Bengals are tied for 6th place in the toughest schedule, and that's combined with Joe Burrow having a bottom 8 offensive line coming off of injury. So that's not very good. And then let's see if we scroll down. Kansas City's kind of tough. And then in the middle, we have the Cardinals, and then it just gets easier based on last year. Jacksonville, Jets. So this could be a good way. Like the Patriots, for example, I don't know. I want to get your take on Mac Jones, Andy. But because they have an easier schedule, maybe they do surprise people and get in the playoffs. Or now that the Saints have an under 500 schedule, maybe Jameis Winston is able to get them competing with a playoff spot. And let's see, Bucs, that's just awesome. Cowboys, good for them. Falcons, and then Eagles. So maybe Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, they do better than expected because they have technically the easiest schedule based on last year.
Yeah, I mean, my hot take on Mac and Jones. Mac and Jones. I've been calling him Mac and Jones.
Mac and Jones.
I've been calling him Mac and Cheese. Mac and Cheese Jones. Because clearly, he's basically like, my hot take on him is he's Tom Brady 2.0. And that's why they cut Cam Newton. They just straight up released Cam Newton. And I mean, his decision making is quick. His scan progression is very quick. His amount of time that he holds the ball in the backfield before he throws is very quick. A lot like Tom Brady. He's not mobile. He's not athletic with his legs. He's not going to beat you with his legs. But he can pick apart a defense with good coaching. You have some of the best coaches in the game, and Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels. They still have a good offensive line. The defense is looking really good so far this preseason. My man David Hunter says that the defense is like 2019 Patriots defense. So they're definitely a team to watch out for. That I think they're going to Mac. I almost want to say it again.
So you think he's actually that good, though? You think Mac Jones is that good? Because it's not like, I mean, look, Cam Newton wasn't looking good. Who's the other guy? Brian Hoyer? That was there?
Brian Hoyer.
Well, yeah, I mean, playing in a real NFL game is a totally different scenario than preseason or even playing college football in Alabama. But you got to think, he's had the best coaches in college football. He's had an incredible system in college football, and he's just been a natural leader and very good decision maker every time he's been put in those situations. I don't see why it would be any different now under Bill Belichick. I think he's going to be very good in the NFL. It's the same thing. Like if we were to go back to 2000 and start, questioning Tom Brady if he were, whenever he stepped foot on the field, it's the same scenario and kind of the way I'm thinking about it.
I think Mac Jones I think he's going to get smoked personally.
Well, here's the thing. I go back to 2019 Tom Brady with last year with the Patriots, and people are saying he's done. He needs to retire. So it's like the best ever, the greatest ever looked bad in New England under that system, and they didn't have weapons. Now they have more weapons, but we're also talking about a rookie quarterback. And so I'm like, I don't know. Would you say Mac Jones is going to be the most surprising rookie quarterback, or would you go with someone else?
No, I definitely go with Justin Fields in Chicago. I mean, I think he's got, just these guys that are dual threat. I mean, Justin Fields has got a great arm and he's got a pair of wheels. So he can turn potentially negative plays into big plays with his legs and his arm,
I think with Mac Jones, I think that the struggle is going to be that I think that the Bills and Dolphins defenses in the division, even the Jets defense, I think those defenses are going to be tough in the winter. Playing that, even though the Jets are not the most talented team, I think they're improved from last year. And I just think the Bills and the Dolphins, whereas that division has not been good for a long time, I think they're finally starting to kind of turn that corner over the last couple of years with Josh Allen. And I think the Dolphins are sneaky good too. I think that's really the issue with Mac Jones. Not that the Patriots aren't good. I just think the division's a little tougher.
Okay. I got two questions real quick. First is Baker Mayfield, and there were a couple of people talking about Baker being most overrated. The other one, before I forget, I'm just going to bring it up, is where does Deshaun Watson land now that Tyrod Taylor is named the starter in Houston? So let's start with Baker. So Andy, what's your take on Baker?
I like Baker Mayfield. I mean, we're talking football, like strictly football cards, or we're talking performance. I mean, Baker Mayfield had an incredible 2020, and you look at his personality on TV and everything else. I think that makes him a really big or nice play in terms of rookie card investing because of all the other dynamics involved. But I mean, Kevin Stefanski is an incredible head coach. He comes into the Browns. You've got one of the best downfield runners in the game. And what he's done is revolutionize Baker Mayfield's game because Baker Mayfield is really good when you get him the ball in space. You buy him time, you push those defenses back or bring those defenses up because of how good Nick Chubb is. And then he gets into that play action mode, and now he's picking apart defenses. And that's what we saw a lot last year. And I think Baker Mayfield could very well continue that here into 2021. So I like Baker Mayfield. I like the Cleveland Browns. They made a lot of improvements to the defense, too. They're getting Odell Beckham back. I think the Browns are definitely a team that's going to make a deep playoff run this year, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. And then Deshaun Watson. I saw a question here, New Collector. We'll get to your comment on the Ravens injuries. And I also saw, Chase Edmonds. We'll ask Andy about that. Deshaun Watson is playing technically. He's not off the field. He's not in jail yet or whatever. He's not suspended yet. However, Tyrod Taylor, I believe, was named the starting quarterback for the Houston Texans. What do you think that does for Deshaun Watson? Is he going to be able to be traded? Do you think he goes to Miami or somewhere else? And then, Dustin, if you have any insight, let me know as well.
Well, the NFL cannot investigate him until the legal proceedings are done. And the legal proceedings, as we know in our justice system here in America, take forever, right? So that's what they're waiting for. And they cannot pass down a sentence to him until, a suspension or an expulsion or what have you, until they get the legal proceedings are done. So it's kind of in limbo. I don't think he plays a snap at all in 2021. And it's very likely he could be traded at some point down the road this year.
Okay.
That's a tough one.
Is there a trade destination that, do you think it would be a starting quarterback goes down with an injury and that's it? Or, because what if there's a playoff contender that let's just say the Bills and Josh Allen goes down for the year, or, God forbid the Bucks. I don't know if the Bucks would do it, but if Tom Brady went down for the rest of the year, but the rest of the team is stacked, do you try and make a play where it's like a second round pick or a third rounder and it doesn't cost too much, but you can try and pull it off.
They want so much for Deshaun Watson. I think there's a few teams that could pull it off if they suffered an injury to their starting quarterback. But
here's the problem.
Next year.
Here's the problem is that right before the 2020 season, he signed a 4-year, $177 million deal, a massive contract. So who's going to trade for him when he might be? So, okay, let's say he sits out this year. What if he's suspended for all of next year? And then you're paying what, $40 plus million for a guy that's might not play?
Very likely.
Like, what team's going to make that trade?
Do the teams even pay that amount if he's suspended, though? I'd imagine they don't. I
don't know. Or do the Texans eat some of it? You know, I know teams can do that too, where they'll pay for. We actually just did that with Bradley Roby. The Saints just picked up Bradley Roby from the Texans, and his salary was $8 million, and we ended up paying like $1 million, and the Texans paid $7 million. Just, you know, and then we gave him draft picks or whatever. But so I don't know. I don't know who would trade for him based on that. Unless they say, like, you're going to be suspended for 8 games, so that at least they know kind of like what the story is. You know, I don't know.
Absolutely. Okay, Chase Edmonds, Andy. I don't know too much about Chase Edmonds, and that sounds awesome. A Gronk party boat parallel.
Chase Edmonds is in a timeshare with James Conner in Arizona. I mean, he's got explosive capabilities. But I would consider him as a sleeper. You could probably get some nice premium rookie cards of him for dirt cheap. They're playing the Titans here week 1. That's going to be a shootout game. Watch out for that game this weekend, Tennessee at Arizona. And I would be putting my money in some of those wide receivers on Tennessee if I were you guys. That's where I would be putting my money.
I want to read this comment by GD talking about a Gronk rookie. When I watched Gronk play last night, I was like, I think he would be my number 1 PC purchase because, for one, he's not super expensive. Like if Tom Brady would be like easy number 1. However, his cards are through the roof. Gronk actually has pretty reasonably priced cards tied to Tom Brady, won so many Super Bowls, and he can still play. I think that's pretty impressive. Is like he still had 90 yards last night, 2 touchdowns. And when Tom Brady is the quarterback and has been your quarterback since 2010, and you have the most chemistry and rapport with the greatest ever, you don't have to be a top 5 tight end. You could be average, and Tom Brady will make any player look much better than they actually are with his timing and his accuracy. Like I could get on the field and have like an inch of separation from a corner, and he'll deliver it right there. And as long as I catch the ball, you know, and you look like a good receiver. I wouldn't. You would drop it. Catch it in my jersey. Oh, dude, I got the honking people here again. I don't know if you heard that.
The hinge date's out front.
Said, give me 30 minutes. Said 8 o'clock.
He's got to shave his legs.
Okay, so let's see here. Love how Dustin swishes his Diet Coke like Listerine. That's interesting. Okay, so we talked about who are some of your sleepers, Andy? Who do you think could really surprise a lot of people that aren't being talked too much about?
I'll start off with quarterback, and I'm going to throw out a guy that's got a pretty rare rookie card. Then you compare it to his peer from his same draft class. There's like only one other starting quarterback in his draft class left in the NFL, and I'm talking about Ryan Fitzpatrick on the Washington football team. And I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but Ryan Fitzpatrick has been a top 5, top 10 fantasy quarterback for the last 3 years that he has started in the league. And he's finally getting the best offensive line he's had in his career, the best wide receiving weapons in his career. And he's getting, more importantly, no competition. You know, a lot of people think that they intentionally benched him due to poor performance, but really the Bucs wanted to see what they had in Jameis Winston. The Dolphins last year wanted to see what they had in Tua. You know, they had to see what they had to see if they did need to make a trade for another quarterback or what the case was, because Ryan Fitzpatrick is a journeyman. His rookie card goes all the way back to 2005, and his peer is Aaron Rodgers. And you look at what an Aaron Rodgers Bowman Chrome rookie card costs, you know, thousands of dollars. You could get a Ryan Fitzpatrick one for under $100. I'm like, that's some serious value for a guy that's about to ball out this year.
Yeah, it's interesting because the older quarterbacks, I mean, even Matt Ryan, where it's like, oh my God, you're still playing in the league, and yeah, you went to that Super Bowl and lost, and you were good, but now you're good, but you're never great, you're never GOAT status. It's like they're the least sexy picks to pick up because they're so late in their career. They don't have much time left, but at the same time, we see so much movement in a week-to-week basis that just the Falcons going 3-0, or Big Ben and the Steelers winning a couple games in a row, or Ryan Fitzpatrick with Washington, there's going to be movement, even if it's $100 to $175. There's going to be
and look at that beard, man. Talk about sexy, man. Fitzmagic has got it all, baby. I mean, he graduated from Harvard with honors. He's got that beard, he's got that swag. And now he's got no fear out there on the field. And now he's got, Scary Terry, Curtis Samuel, De'Ami Brown, the rookie they just drafted. I mean, some seriously explosive playmakers. Talk about Antonio Gibson, their running back, is like, incredible playmakers on that team and the defense. So I really like Fitzmagic this year.
It's interesting. I remember specifically he went to that press conference for the Bucs. I got to pull this up because this is the off the field type of thing that I like. I just wish he was a better overall quarterback. I wish he was great, but this is what I like, is seeing him like this. I don't know. This was definitely one of the Fitzmagic games. Let's see if I can blow this up, make it bigger. Yeah, I exactly thought that same thing. Conor McGregor. He has a very Conor McGregor look right there, but I just thought he looked so badass, so alpha boss, I do what I want, this is my style, don't mess with me. That I was like, dude, I want to invest in this guy's cards. I just wish he was more established, had a bit more of a legacy. But I mean, that's where also fantasy football ends, and then the personality side comes out, because when you have Gronk and his personality, and you have Odell Beckham and some of the other guys and their personality, that's where the collectability can really take over without them having to perform very good on the field.
Think about this, Brad. In 2018, during weeks 1 through 3, when Jameis Winston was suspended, Ryan Fitzmagic was the QB1 in the NFL in fantasy football for those weeks. He was the QB2 in weeks 7 through 17 upon taking over from Josh Rosen in 2019, and he was the QB8 in weeks 1 through 6 before losing, in quotation marks, his job to Tua. They were really wanting to test out and see what they had. So, I mean, he's good, man. He's good, and now he's got playmakers, and I love the scarcity around his rookie cards, because there's just not a lot of 2005 Bowman Chrome rookie cards floating around. Look at how expensive Aaron Rodgers are.
Well, I think that one thing with Ryan Fitzpatrick is just how many more seasons, because if it's that cheap and you're like, all right, well, he could be a backup and then come in as a backup to take over a starter, and maybe the rest of the team is stacked. What if Ryan Fitzpatrick was our backup? We didn't have Kyle Trask, and Ryan Fitzpatrick was our number 2. I'd be like, hey, if something happens to Tom, he does go down quick. So, he takes sacks very quickly, so he's not trying to battle through anything. More than likely, Tom won't get injured. But if that were the case, the Bucs team is stacked. They could win a couple games with Ryan Fitzpatrick. So
you forgot all about Blaine Gabbert, bro.
Well, I didn't even know what team Blaine Gabbert plays for now.
Dude, he's looked pretty good in the preseason, man.
For who?
For Tampa.
Blaine Gabbert?
Yes, Blaine Gabbert is our backup ahead of Kyle Trask.
Brad, the Bucs fan, doesn't know who his backup quarterback
is. The backups, I mean, look, when Tom Brady's your starter, do you even really pay attention to the backups? I just know the other guy got drafted, which I thought was great. But okay, interesting.
I'm gonna go against the grain sleeper, Joe Burrow. I'm gonna go back against devil's advocate against Andy, because I can understand what Andy's saying about Burrow kind of maybe being a little overrated, because his cards are a little bit pricey. But also the Bengals could be a kind of sneaky good. You never know. And I really like Joe Burrow coming out of college. So outside, before he got injured, Joe Burrow was having a Justin Herbert type season before he got hurt. So I want to see what Burrow's got. I want to see.
Very true. I love Joe Burrow. I think he's a natural leader as well, and I love his demeanor, his attitude. But how is he going to how are they even going to make it to the playoffs, Dustin, in that division with the Browns, the Steelers, and the Ravens?
And well,
God
the question is, do they need to
with the bottom 25 offensive line?
Well, okay, so the offensive line is a legit question, but playoffs don't even need to be. I mean, look, if a team goes 4-1, you're going to see card prices go up. If they lose, if they win 4 in a row, any team that a quarterback plays good for 4 weeks in a row and they've won all 4 games, I think that's going to be an opportunity for any quarterback, any of their cards, and any wide receivers or running backs that are playing good during that span to be able to sell. So it doesn't have to mean who's going to win the Super Bowl, because we could say, well, is it make the playoffs, or is it no, it's Super Bowl winners only? For me, it's an opportunity to sell for more than I paid for it. So that's where the backup quarterbacks, the Ryan Fitzpatricks, can make sense, because you're just looking for that little window of opportunity. You just, with Ryan Fitzpatrick, with Matt Ryan, with obviously Blaine Gabbert or whoever backup or whoever, even Dak Prescott. I hope he has a great season, but just like the Dak Prescott cards I have, if he goes down with another injury and then all of a sudden you're like, all right, well, another injury, and then next year you're hoping, there's no backup on Dak Prescott. There's zero legacy. He doesn't have a ring. It's not like if Aaron Rodgers goes down, has a season-ending injury, he's still Aaron Rodgers. He still has a few years left, but more importantly, he still has legacy. The other players don't have any legacy. That's why I think Gronk here, people are talking about he might be undervalued, because maybe he is a tight end and he's like the 4th option for Tom Brady. But, I mean, he has nothing to lose, everything to gain. I mean, he can go down with an injury and just ride the Bucs winning record all the way to the playoffs and perhaps the Super Bowl with O.J. Howard stepping in.
Fair enough. One guy to watch out for, and I have no idea what his cards are doing, but Marquez Callaway has emerged as the Saints' #1 receiver. Michael Thomas is
Joey Galloway?
Marquez Callaway.
Okay. Not Joey Galloway, because I remember him.
Actually, we'd probably sign Joey Galloway right now. We need receiver.
He's 61.
Marquez Callaway was an undrafted free agent from 2020.
I think that I looked on. Actually, I did look him up just to see like what are the card options, and I only saw like Tennessee draft pick cards.
Yeah, his primo Dustin is a Contenders. He's got the Contenders rookie ticket autograph, but those are over $100 now.
Is it Saints jersey or is it Tennessee?
Tennessee still, but it's got that Saints logo on it, with the rookie ticket. Yeah,
it kind of stinks, but yeah, okay.
So I was buying his Prism draft picks autograph cards as one of the guys I highlight on my channel because of all of my activity in fantasy football. I saw this guy picking up steam in the preseason, and I saw Jameis Winston getting more playing time. Michael Thomas was definitely being sat because he's a veteran, also struggling with that high ankle from last year. Traquan Smith has been struggling with injuries this preseason. And so Marquez Callaway burst onto the scene with his chemistry with Jameis Winston. And so I picked up a couple of his Prism draft picks autograph cards for $20. And lo and behold, he blows up that Monday night preseason game a couple weeks ago. And I tripled my money on those that same week on eBay.
Nice.
I should have bought some. I never got in on any of those.
You were concerned with your video games and vintage. What are you doing?
That's right. Too busy buying these established Hall of Famers. Dang it.
What a horrible strategy. What a horrible strategy. You need to buy undrafted rookies.
Hey, you got to be on point in the speculation, undrafted, free agent, rookie. Any of these rookies, like you said, that don't have a Hall of Fame trajectory yet, you got to be on point because the selling window could be small. That's why I tell guys, don't get greedy. If you're looking at a double up or even especially a triple up, like go ahead and sell that card. Go ahead and take your profits,
And I'll also say too, doubling your money, tripling your money. This was very common last season, even leading up to last season, where prices just kept going up and up. And right now, a lot of the cards I bought in January at really good prices. And even now, looking at where the prices are at, they're about the same, maybe 5 to 10% plus or minus. And sometimes it's minus because the pop report has doubled, or it's plus, but it's not worth selling for a 10% profit when you're paying fees that will wipe out that profit. So it does look a lot more performance based in terms of cards going up. I don't know how much hype will impact prices this season. While last season, you didn't even need performance. The hype took over. No one had cards. Everyone had stimulus money. So it's kind of like, let me stock up. Let me stock up. This is great. And now I think a lot of people are sitting on cards from last year they overpaid on, and it's going to be a lot more who's actually playing well, who has a chance. We'll see if any sets or variations emerge that get very popular and start gaining traction. But I just feel like with the sports and with the card market going forward, it's going to be a lot more performance-based, a lot less hype, or just maybe a few sales on hype, but not nearly as long or as severe.
Yeah, well said, Brad.
I like this. I like this. These are the famous last words from David Rogers. Cannot lose with Teddy Bridgewater. Anytime I see can't lose with anybody, fill in the blank outside of maybe Tom Brady or Michael Jordan, like anybody else is just kind of makes me chuckle a little bit. Hey, man, you could be right. You could be right. Who knows?
What's your take on Teddy, Andy?
I do think Teddy is solid. Now, I'm not going to go out and say he's great. I mean, he's got his own holes that you could poke into him for sure, but he's an upgrade from Drew Lock, and he's definitely going to produce. I like investing in Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant instead of Teddy, because of those reasons we talked about. Teddy, now he is a pretty cool guy. He's got a pretty decent social media following. He can definitely sling the rock, he's a cool guy, but I don't see him ever really getting to that Hall of Fame trajectory. And I don't even see like the Denver Broncos really making a deep run this year. They've got a pretty challenging schedule themselves. And I'm more interested in investing in the skill position players on Denver than I am in Teddy, in my opinion.
Andy, while we're talking about that too, because you're one guy that's really been focused on skill position players, along with quarterbacks too, but how are you kind of strategizing with that? Or do you have certain guys that are like, I'm holding this for years, or I'm comfortable holding this guy for years? Or are these more kind of like week to week daily fantasy type deals, where you're picking up Jerry Jeudy, he goes off and you look to sell, like how do you, if you don't mind sharing that, because I'm just curious how you kind of look.
You better share it.
I've been getting deep into.
And he's like, no, thanks. I'm not going to talk about it.
Next question.
This is where we draw the line, Dustin.
Yeah. Fifth, I played the fifth.
How much money is in your account?
Yeah.
And what's your mother's maiden name?
No, there's a lot of guys that I plan on because I agree with Brad. I feel that our hobby has matured a lot. And I believe that it's a lot more performance driven now. There's not nearly as many guys that are superstars in the NFL that have just been going up this preseason for no reason, especially guys that haven't even played in the preseason. We've seen that those card prices have just kind of stalled. They just kind of stayed stagnant. And I think it's going to be a lot driven off of performance. And we saw a lot of interesting card sales pop off after last night's game based on the performance. So I've been really getting deep into examining my raw cards because I've looked at the research and thanks to David Hunter, one of the incredible guys in our community, looking at the gem rates of different sets from different years. And so I've been really getting detailed in the nitty gritty of my cards. I've been scanning them into my computer, blowing them up and looking at them all different angles, looking at those corners, surface, edges to see which ones are potential cards that I want to send in to get graded. Like, for example, I bought a Travis Kelce Topps Chrome Refractor rookie card. I paid about $60 for. I'm fine holding that card long term. I actually sent that to SGC to get graded because that guy is not a speculative buy, in my opinion. I mean, he's very much on a Hall of Fame trajectory, and those guys I'm very much happy with holding and for a long time. Or rookies like. For example, T. Higgins is a prime example. I think he's an incredible athlete, but he's on your Cincinnati Bengals, Dustin, and I just don't see a path for them to really make the playoffs this year. But I do have a lot of faith in Joe Burrow and T. Higgins long term, and I think he's going to be around for a long time. So I'm okay with holding a field level silver of his card if it's in great condition, getting it graded, even if it's if PSA were to ever open a $20 or $30 option and it takes 2 years, I'm okay with that because I feel like this guy's going to be around for a long time, and I'm okay with that. And then there's a bunch of other guys that I bought cards like Marvin Jones is a primary example on Jacksonville. I was picking up these Topps Chrome refractors and X-fractors for Marvin Jones for less than $5 a piece. In fact, I got these off of Beckett Marketplace in a volume deal for like $1 a piece. And these are cards that I'm just going to sell raw because I think he can have some good performances with Trevor Lawrence. And I believe that he's got some chemistry with him. He's got already understanding of the playbook. He's got past experience with their offensive coordinator, and he's a veteran in their offense, and he was able to make big plays. So I think he can make some big plays. Those performances will result in, some interest around his rookie cards, at which point they potentially send those into Star Stock, stuff like that.
Nice. Okay, cool. That's awesome.
What's your take on Matt Stafford? We had a question here about Matt Stafford.
I like Matt Stafford, man. Matt Stafford's been prolific in his career. Now, injury concerns, that's what held him back last year. And Matt Stafford, though, in the Sean McVay system in the Los Angeles Rams with an elite offensive line, elite defense, you've got much better weapons there across the board. Now, Cam Akers did go down, but the running game is just one small component of a Sean McVay offense. The offense is going to be high powered. I love Robert Woods. I think Cooper Kupp's awesome. I've got Tyler Higbee in a lot of my fantasy leagues. I think Matt Stafford's going to be a huge upgrade for that offense, and that defense has got potential to take them very deep in the playoffs, potentially Super Bowl candidates. You never know.
Yeah, I think for the Rams, the best thing for Stafford is the Rams defense. Honestly, I think that Stafford could have a very average year, but the Rams defense will put them over the top.
Yeah, and real quick, we forgot to get to the Ravens injury, so we're going to ask you. That's going to be the next question. Just all right, Stafford, we're talking about Matt Ryan. We're talking about a lot of good quarterbacks that are older that have not established anything, so their window of opportunity is dwindling. But that's why football is such a unique sport compared to the others, because it is such a team sport. Baseball, you could be a great hitter, but you need the pitchers to pitch. You need the other players to hit. Hockey is obviously a team sport, but basketball, I think, is the one where it's a single sport where one player can really take over offensively and defensively. Football, you could have the best quarterback without an offensive line. You can have the best quarterback and offensive line with receivers that drop balls. You can have the offense being stacked, but the defense is so bad that they still lose the game. And I think that's where it gets very dangerous. And that's where I like to look at the complementary pieces a lot more than just the quarterback. Or the receiver's great, but who is the quarterback? What's the offensive line like? And what's the chemistry between the QB and the receiver, as well as the other receivers? If there's the Bucs they had two receivers over 100 yards last night, which was good. But Mike Evans, who I think is their number one, had 24 yards, something ridiculously little, because there's so many quality weapons. It's a very interesting sport. But one question here that I want to touch on, Saad, value of silver prisms in the next 5 years. I think this can go onto any sport. The way I see parallels and looking at these newer cards, 2019, 2020 and newer, is because of the unknown of how many cards are printed, and because of how much is coming back from PSA and how much is still stuck at PSA. I'm going to buy raw. If it's newer stuff, I'll do serial numbered. I'll do rarer things, but I'm very hesitant because it's a horrible feeling to get the player right and to get the card right. But because the amount that is in existence turns out to be triple what you think, you actually make a poor investment. And so I would rather go with the older stuff and wait an extra year or two for the numbers to really fill out. But in terms of parallels, the one thing that I think about is when bulk submission existed for PSA and BGS and the others, and it was $10 a card, $20 a card, you could send in the base cards of Kyler Murray. And he's one example because I've seen his pop count double since buying his cards. You could send his cards in on the lower end because it might have been a $40 card and you pay $15, $20 to get it graded. But if it was a silver, if it was a rarer version, you probably would have paid $50 for that card to be graded. more than likely that would have been processed already. So the one little bit of security I have with the higher end cards, even the newer cards, but if they're higher end, is that it'll probably go through an expedited service, which means that they're not going to be sitting for 8 months in a box. The lower end cards will be sitting in boxes for a long time, and those are the ones where I'd expect the pop counts to go through the roof. So just from that, I will probably do silver prisms and other parallels that are aesthetically pleasing a lot more than base prisms and base select or whatever of newer players. Long-winded, but I thought it was good.
All day, Brad.
Yeah, I think silver prisms are going to be okay long term. I mean, I think that, you know, and even if you look at pop reports on a lot of that stuff, I agree with you on base prism. I think base prism might be something that's, you know, not so great long term, but silver prisms, I think, especially if Fanatics does away with silver prism, I think that there will be a time in the future where that'll be a nostalgic thing where people are like, man, remember silver prisms, or I couldn't afford silver prisms or whatever. I think there will be some sort of nostalgia factor to silver prism.
And I will say silver prism is not a bad looking card. Base to me is just so boring. If it's prism base, I'm like, oh, this is so boring. It looks like tinfoil. Base of select, base of others, revolution. There's others I think look good based. It's interesting. But prism, I'm like, man, I'm just so bored. Well, but at least silver, it's okay. It's shiny. It's shiny. It's a little oil slick, whatever. It's cool. But global sports card investor, there's one of us that might have an answer for you because I don't. I know Andy doesn't know what a basketball is. Dustin, you're gonna have to answer your top 15 to cover us as well.
I know. I mean, this is so hard because I'm not going that it says who are your top 5 prospects that you are willing to go hard on. My issue is I'm not going hard on any new players, but I am picking them up here and there. Like I like Jason Tatum, I like Luka Doncic, kind of the obvious guys. Devin Booker, I like him.
Is that a prospect? I thought prospects we're talking about like rookies type of thing.
Oh, okay, yeah. If you're going and I consider those guys prospects, but yeah, if you're talking about true prospects, I'm not buying any personally. Not at this point. I'm just too honestly, global card investor. There's just too many other things I'm interested in. I think that's the problem. Too many other things.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. What else about football? What are you looking forward to this weekend? Any big matchups? Anything that you're looking forward to specifically? And what else did we ask? We got to do the Super Bowl pick, and we got to do maybe wide receivers that you think will burst onto the scene as well this year.
I'll go first. It's going to be so easy to pick this one. It's going to be the Saints in the Super Bowl. Jameis going to shock the world. I saw a comment. Wait, let me get back to him.
Well, you're going to have to put money on it because
David Rogers, who dat nation. No, I think that this weekend, Aaron Rodgers is going to dance into Jacksonville, thinking that he's going to have an easy win against our new look Saints, and I think it's going to be very different than what he imagines. I think that we're underrated. Jameis Winston can get the ball downfield. Granted, I understand it's got to be into one of our receivers' hands, but he can at least.
You're undrafted rookie.
He can stretch the field. The last 2 years, we have not had Drew could not get the ball 50 yards downfield. He couldn't get the ball 25 yards downfield. So we now have a guy that can stretch the field, and we have a lot of the same guys in there, Kamara and the rest of the gang. So for me this weekend, I'm pulling for my Saints. Obviously, I'm a homer, but I think it's going to happen.
Smash the over in that game. Smash the over. That's for sure.
Yeah, there we go.
But no, I like James. I've been picking up Jameis Winston and like
he's smoking Coke.
Jerry Coke zeros. Sorry, Andy, go ahead.
I'm just gonna say I've been picking up Jameis Winston in my fantasy drafts this preseason in like the 12th, 13th round. Love that pick because I mean he was an absolute baller in Tampa Bay. Even maybe it wasn't always positive in a sense. There's a lot of pick six at the same around the same clip as there were touchdown passes, but hey, if you got Michael Thomas healthy, Marquez Callaway is incredible at the point of catch. That guy is very talented. I don't think he should have been undrafted. There was some interesting I'd have to study his backstory more, but there were some interesting stipulations around his story, the reason why he went undrafted, because he is very talented.
I will. Let me throw in too the guy. So there is a big bettor in Vegas that bet for Tom Brady and the Bucs to win the Super Bowl last year. That same guy just put huge money on Jameis Winston and the Saints to win the Super Bowl this year. So hey, look, I don't want to bet against Vegas, guys. I don't want to go against Vegas. So I'll pick the Saints.
So he that's his like little bit of fun gamble because he wants to 20x his money versus just get a 30% payout from the Tom Brady pick going to the Super Bowl. Now he just wants to like 20x his money. It's just not going to happen. It's funny hearing someone talk so optimistically about Jameis Winston, who got to see him play twice a year when his team picked him off. And as a Bucs fan, we got to see him for 5 years. He's entertaining to watch because he runs around like a chicken with his head cut off. He might evade 3 sacks and then throw the ball directly in the air, like playing a game of 500. And then you just don't know if it's a wide receiver or an opposing cornerback that's going to grab it. It's his decision-making. If he has this decision-making, he has the accuracy. He's likable with the teammates. He'll be fine. It's just if he can get out of his own way. That's it. Like if he can be 40 touchdowns, 20 picks versus 30-30, or just cut the picks in half, he'll win probably 10 games this year. But that's a big if.
Five words for you: LASIK eye surgery, and then the other two, the other two, crab legs, and I'm out.
It's funny. It's like I've been playing quarterback my entire life, including 5 years for this Tampa Bay team. I think I should get my eyes checked and fixed. It's like, are you serious? You didn't get LASIK when you were 18?
No, that's the Sean Payton effect, man. Sean's like, get your shit together, Jameis.
Yeah. The Bucs are like, wait a second, you can't see anything? What are you?
You're legally blind?
He's been walking, or he's been on the field with a walker this whole time. No one even noticed.
Andy, who's your Super Bowl pick?
Man.
Let's go with teams. Dustin, I want you to say who the Saints are going to go against as well.
Well, clearly, if it's going to be the Bucs or the Saints, right? According to this conversation right here, this live stream, cast of characters we got right here. But obviously, I got to go with my team. For fantasy, I like last night. I started Ezekiel Elliott and Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper had a great game, but I was still rooting for the Bucs to win. At the end of the day, I still want the Bucs to win. I still believe they're going to win. I got a lot more confidence when we're coming down the stretch, the last minute and a half of a game, driving down the field with Tom Brady. So I feel really good about us getting back there for sure. I mean, this is the best I've ever felt going into a season with the Bucs. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, and same here. Just seeing Tom play the way he plays, knowing that one receiver, two receivers, they can go down, and there's still so much depth. If a couple offensive linemen went down, that's when I'd get concerned, just because Tom has to be protected, period. Defense does concern me a bit because they're very aggressive in the secondary. They have a lot of penalties. They can force turnovers if they're not penalized, but they're also still a bit young and a bit immature. I just feel like, man, whatever mistakes the defense makes, you could just put the weight on Tom Brady's shoulders, and as long as he's protected, he'll find the right targets. He has a quality receivers. So I'm like, it's hard to pick. Emotionally, I'm obviously picking the Bucs as well, but in the NFC, how do I pick against the Bucs? I think if anything, it would be the Chiefs and Bucs, and the Chiefs win this time. I could see that happening, and I obviously want the Bucs to win, but if that happens, man, I'd love to see how fired up Tom is next year, because he's not retiring after this year, period. Like, he just looks too good from week one to even, think that he's going to be done this year.
Well, and the Bucs, I mean, look at Tom Brady's career, and yes, he did have Randy Moss at one point, but this is the best receiving core he's ever had and ever will have. They have 3 number 1 receivers. They've got AB, Godwin, and Mike Evans, and then they've got a Hall of Fame tight end, arguably the best tight end to ever play in Gronk, and then they've got Scotty Miller, and then it's like
Scotty Miller's like, he would be like a slot receiver of most teams.
It's insane. It's insane how much depth we have at every position on our offense.
It'll come down to injuries. Like with every season, it'll come down to injuries. Can all these guys hold up over 17 games now, plus the playoffs? It's going to be what teams are healthiest. I'm going to say the Saints, obviously, because that's my team. But it's the Bucs to lose, really, to make it back to the Super Bowl. I'm going to say that I'm going to go Homer again. My in-laws are huge Browns fans, so I'm going to pick Saints Browns because the Browns are kind of it's probably the best team they've put on the field. Maybe I wouldn't say ever, but it's definitely in the last 10, 20, 30 years since the Bernie Kosar days. This is a really good Browns team. So I'm going to go with Saints Browns. What the hell?
Really good. And I'm going with the Buffalo Bills, Dustin and Brad, because I don't think that very few teams, if any, are going to be able to stop Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and that Buffalo Bills offense this year. And their defense is still really good. They've got incredible coaching. And so I'm going with the Buffalo Bills.
All right. Well, we got our picks. I just want to touch on wide receivers, running backs. Who's on your radar? Let's just go with 2 or 3 guys to look out for this season, Andy, that you really believe in. Maybe they're underrated, maybe they're not, but just a couple players that you think will either live up to the hype or over-deliver, and then we'll go on a couple that you think may disappoint.
I would say right off the bat, right now, an easy one for me. Like I've been looking at a lot of different opportunities to get in on this guy's rookie card is Julio Jones on the Tennessee Titans. And he's got a smash spot here against Arizona week 1 with Arizona's secondary is considerably downgraded. Their star corner retired after last year. And he's a Hall of Fame, pretty much a lock for the Hall of Fame. And I think the Titans have a great team all around with Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, and now Julio Jones. And Ryan Tannehill is a very tactical player. He's a smart player as well. He's got a lot of potential himself to be a good investment, and he comes with that little bonus of being a 2012 rookie, that first year Prism. So I like that little stack right there, Ryan Tannehill, Julio Jones, even A.J. Brown, but A.J. Brown's prices are definitely at a premium right now. But compared to DK Metcalf in the same draft year, I think there's still some room for A.J. Brown rookie cards to even go up a little bit. But I love that Julio Jones target with how close he is. Potentially, I think he is probably already a lock for the Hall of Fame. Wouldn't you say, Dustin?
Yeah. It's kind of like the Calvin Johnson effect. Like Calvin Johnson never played on a great team, but he was a beast. I think Julio Jones will be in the Hall of Fame.
And I thought even Mike Evans was on pace even before the Super Bowl win. Mike Evans was on pace just from his individual statistics. I would imagine they give wide receivers, defensive players, offensive linemen, everyone besides quarterbacks a bit more of a break for Hall of Fame just because so much is on the shoulders of quarterbacks to win the Super Bowl. And it's kind of like if you're a wide receiver, you're at the mercy of so many other things.
Don't forget, too, I didn't catch this until I was drafting my fantasy football team, but the Cardinals also picked up A.J. Green from the Bengals. So they've got Hopkins and A.J. Green to stretch the field. Like, no one's thinking about A.J. Green because he's been hurt. But if A.J. Green is healthy, he's a number 1 receiver that now plays with Hopkins, arguably the best receiver in football, top 3 for sure. So that'll be a game to watch.
A.J. Green looked like dust last year in Cincinnati. I'm just going to say that. The games that I watched him play looked like he could jump about as well as I can now.
You look like Dustin? Yeah. Is that what you said?
I'm a little faster. I'm actually a little faster than him.
No, like but he I think that the preseason, the ability to have a preseason, to have a training camp is doing a lot of good for these veteran players. Because I feel like these older guys need more time to loosen up those joints, to warm up those ligaments and everything, to get into that explosive full speed mode.
Was he banged up last year, or was he healthy and just looked bad?
He was healthy for the most part. I mean, he had a couple little banged up things here and there, but he was healthy for the most part. He just was, really dusty, man. It was, but Julio Jones was the same way in a lot of games last year. I mean, you watched him and it was like, man, is he like, that doesn't look like Julio Jones, you know?
Right.
And I think that's going to be different this year. I think both of those guys are going to have better years. They're not done yet. You're right. They're not done yet.
Okay. I forgot to mention this before because I tried to remember. I didn't. Ravens injuries. What's your take on the Ravens now after the injuries? Obviously, Lamar Jackson, I guess, was looking good entering the year. Now you have what? The running back and was it the corner?
No, just a bunch. The running back, dude, it's like almost like a curse or something going on in Baltimore. I mean, you had J.K. Dobbins just absolutely destroyed his knee in the preseason, like week 3. And then just earlier this week, Gus Edwards, who was in line to be the next starting running back one there, tore his ACL. Looks like he's going to be out for the season. So they brought Le'Veon Bell. That's the big hype right now. They brought Le'Veon Bell. Looks like they're going to sign him to a 1-year contract. They've also brought in this guy, Tyson Williams.
Well, they signed Latavius Murray.
Latavius, you're right. They did. They signed Latavius Murray. So they're scrambling right now for running back depth.
And that's why they'll be fine. Honestly, they'll be fine. Latavius Murray is a good back. He's a really good back.
And I mean, aren't running backs kind of like, unless they're elite, isn't it kind of like, man, we'll trade for one. Here's a 4th rounder. We'll get someone that's decent.
Well, because they have a good line. It's because they have a good line. That's why it's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't. In terms of fantasy, or rookie card investing, besides Lamar Jackson, maybe Mark Andrews. Like, I was excited about Rashad Bateman, a little bit of excitement around Sammy Watkins, but I think Lamar Jackson is a one-man wrecking crew. I mean, Lamar Jackson is an elite rushing quarterback. He is the best rushing quarterback in the NFL. This guy, I've seen him juke out 5-6 defenders, and they just could not catch him. We're talking some of the fastest guys in the NFL, and he juked them out, could not catch him. And his rookie cards compared to Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield are undervalued. I'll tell you this, guys, right now. Lamar Jackson, I mean, you got to expect some regression after being the 2019 MVP. It's like, you know, on a golf course, you get 5 birdies in a row. What's going to happen? Even the best golfers, you know, they get a couple pars, maybe a bogey after that. And then you go back into that birdie eagle mode. And that's what we could see from Lamar Jackson this year. I mean, I don't think the running back scenario, like you guys are saying, is really that big of an issue for Baltimore at all. I think Lamar Jackson is going to just absolutely smash.
You know, one thing you mentioned that's interesting is that Lamar Jackson was MVP and then he struggled the next year, or like it just took a step down. It wasn't MVP caliber. And we see a lot of rookies do well in the first year, and then there's a term, sophomore slump, which for whatever reason, either they don't work as hard or defenses just understand them better, or what, and they just don't work even harder. Like, whatever it is, where they rely on the fact that they were successful in year 1 to just coast. Whatever the reason is, sophomore slumps exist for a handful of players. What rookie from last year do you think will take a step back this year?
Well, it could be Justin Herbert. I mean, it very well could be Justin Herbert. Because you got to, like, I was looking at his numbers earlier from last year, and his completion numbers and his clean pocket completion numbers were not great. He did a lot of good things, and I mean, he's got an incredible arm. He's got an incredible deep ball, and you know, they've got a new coach. They've got a new coach in there from the Rams. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with the Chargers this year. But he's a guy, and I think it's more so in terms of his rookie card value, right? I'm always parlaying everything with rookie cards these days. So I'm always automatically thinking about what their rookie cards are valued at and how they're performing and what they're projected to do. I think Justin Herbert could not be as good as what a lot of people think he can be this year, you know, based on how much they've invested in him in his rookie cards.
Yeah, I think too that, and we just talked about this. Joe Burrow got hurt, and they were neck and neck in the Rookie of the Year conversation before Burrow got hurt. Burrow was having a good year. I mean, Burrow was there. So once Burrow gets hurt, he's out of the picture. No one is talking about him, looking at him. All the attention goes to Justin Herbert, and that's really been a lot of I think that's a lot of it. I think that if Joe Burrow didn't get hurt and played a full season, I think that, and I'm not a Bengals fan, I own one Burrow card, but I'm just saying, like, I just think that, it's pretty obvious that, once Burrow went down, Herbert, it just went up from there. And there's only down for Herbert unless he just keeps on going, unless the Chargers are a playoff team, unless, he wins an MVP or something. He's rookie of the year. So it's like, he's kind of that obvious pick of like a guy that could take a step back. Another guy that I think is overrated, I would say, is Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. There's a lot of excitement around Jalen Hurts. He played 4 games last year and has really, really pedestrian numbers with the Eagles. And so I feel like, it's like maybe Hurts is the next second coming. Maybe he's the guy, but he just hasn't played enough football, to really warrant huge card prices, in my opinion. I mean, that's just for me. And I'm not a guy that really prospects a lot, but I don't know.
Are you seeing huge card prices in him?
No, and I'm not even shopping for him. But I guess if we go back months, I remember at the Dallas show, when we were at the Dallas show, going back to, when was that, Brad? May? Was that at the end of May?
Yeah, I believe May.
Mm-hmm. So they were fairly hot at the end of May, if I remember rightly. There was some big cards of his there. And a lot of people, there was a little bit of buzz around Hurts, and I just wasn't seeing it. Now maybe it's kind of calmed down a little bit, but I just remember in Dallas, there was talk about Herbert and Jalen Hurts and some of these young guys.
Well, the one thing with the Eagles is they have, according to this website, sportingnews.com, the easiest schedule of the entire league with a win percentage of 0.451. So it's 115 wins, 140 losses, and 1 tie is what the 2020 opponents that they face, that was their record last year. So obviously players switch. Some teams will do better or worse, but just based on that, the Eagles have the easiest schedule on paper. So that's something to factor in, because at least it's not what the Steelers have, which is the hardest schedule at a winning record of 574, 155 to 115. So, I mean, you don't have to be the best quarterback, but if you're facing easier teams, then you're going to look better by default.
Well, I think similarly to Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, big highlights and stuff are likely to come from his rushing plays. He's a similar type of athlete in that sense, that his arm, his accuracy around his arm is the question mark there. I mean, he's an incredibly talented rusher. And very, very good athlete. He's fast, he's big, he's powerful, he's strong, he's very explosive. But I think it's going to be his decision-making and the accuracy of his throws. And that's the big question mark. You're right. If you're already, paying a super premium for a guy's rookie card that's totally unproven like this, then that's scary. That is scary. But I was recently comparing Justin Herbert's, and now maybe this was the specific set that I was looking at, but Jalen Hurts was significantly undervalued compared to Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert.
I can see that. Yeah, for sure. That makes sense.
Yeah, J-Mac, lots of speculation. We are just excited. We have no idea. If it's not Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers or someone with established legacy, it's all just this fun game of what if. So that let's end with a couple things. Who's MVP? Dustin, who's MVP of the league? Is it Jameis Winston? Because that makes sense to you and you're completely objective.
I think it's just obviously going to be him. It's like, I guess we could speculate on other guys, but let's not speculate. Let's just call it what it is. It's going to be Jameis.
Andy?
Yeah, let's not speculate. It's going to be Tom Brady.
Yeah, I'd say, I don't know what the odds are. I'd say Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady, but man, I got to go with Tom Brady. Another year.
You guys are shocking me.
Yeah, I just got to do that.
Or Pete Carroll could finally say, you know what, Russ, we're going to let you coach this year and see if you can get it done. And maybe he gets it done this year in Seattle, and this is Russ's year. Who knows? Yeah, or maybe. Josh Allen. Josh Allen could, from all the beat reporters, and, Carson Palmer's brother has trained Josh Allen. And
you said enough right there.
Carson, this guy has had incredible coaching. He was the most improved quarterback that I saw from 2019 to 2020. And if he can continue that progression, it's watch out. There's
ifs with everything since we don't know the future, because there's a lot of like, if you can keep going, but then we also see regression all the time or whatever. So it definitely could be. Who's the number one rusher in the NFL when it's said and done, Dustin?
Number one rusher? I'm going to go with McCaffrey just because he's going to be, I mean, outside of Robbie Anderson, he's going to be the whole offense in Carolina.
Andy?
Nick Chubb, Cleveland Browns. Healthy. This guy is going to break rushing records this year. I think potentially he could be such a good rusher this year. He could get an MVP.
Yeah, and I guess I picked McCaffrey. He's more of a dual threat. If I'm going strictly rusher, I would say Derrick Henry. That was my bad there. So if we're going strictly rushing yards, Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I'll pick Derrick Henry just because I was drawing a blank. I was like, Bucks don't have a good rusher.
I'll just say what you said.
But Derrick Henry's to lose, and a lot of people are knocking on him because of like, oh, how many running backs have been able to replicate 2,000-yard plus seasons at this clip? And plus, Derrick Henry is now 28, but he's showed no signs of slowing down, no signs of injuries. The guy's an absolute beast, man. There is no comparable player looking at their workout metrics to him. It's Zangief from Street Fighter is who they compare him to.
Yeah, I can see that.
And there's your boy Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Oh, he's incredible. He's incredible. He's poised to have a number one running back. Yeah.
JTT in the house.
Teen idol. Yeah.
Okay. We haven't talked about Carson Wentz once at all, and the Indianapolis Colts have an elite offensive line that they're struggling. A little bit of injuries in the offensive line, but I think overall it's not going to slow down Jonathan Taylor a whole lot because he's very Adrian Peterson-esque, maybe even a little bit faster, a little bit more Peterson.
Yep. He doesn't know. He doesn't know it's happening.
From time to time, it's funny.
Yeah, he doesn't know that it's happening though, Brad.
That's what makes it fun. You'll watch it on the replay. Okay. Anyway, well, we're just going to end it there. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. Andy, all right, people can find you at the Fantasy Football Card Quest on Instagram, but it's really your YouTube channel that you want to check out. What do you offer people that watch your channel, that subscribe to your stuff?
All football cards all day, and anything related to football cards, primarily modern active players. I have dabbled in vintage before. I plan to dabble in vintage again in the future. I think it's obviously very safe. But yeah, I'm basically, sharing my experiences in fantasy football and football cards, and just doing a deep dive analytical approach, a Bayesian approach every week, almost daily at this point, on breaking down what's going on in football and correlating that with what's going on in the football card market. And so I've also started a podcast. I got a weekly podcast going. I'm creating additional videos and articles on Patreon. You can find us at patreon.com/footballcards, or there's a second YouTube channel. Like I said, I've started a podcast with my buddy Carter the Power from Power Hour LSU. And this guy is incredibly knowledgeable when it comes to football. He's now been in the card game for about a year, and he's a lot more closer to your mindset, Dustin, about, focusing on vintage and safer investments and stuff like that. And so him and I have those contrary, opinions, and it makes for a really good podcast. And so you can find that on Football Cards Collecting and Investing. That's the name of the YouTube channel where those videos land. And so that's where I'm at. Between all that stuff, I have no other time to spend doing anything, really.
Yeah, and he's like, I've lost my whole family. This is it now.
It's so funny. This is the one live stream. I don't know what it is. I actually don't have any desire to pee. And it's usually 30 minutes in. And I had my smoothie and everything, and I have no desire to pee. Not even wearing a Depends this time. So, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Wow.
Give me 4 more minutes, new collector. 4 more minutes. The urge is there. It's Friday night. The urge is there.
Dustin, is that a compliment for us, or I don't know how to take that?
No, it's
well, check out this. They usually come in hot and heavy at the end of the stream. Egyptian, Hebrew, Hindu, Anglo. Dustin, buy a camera that works, you cheap bastard. And then here come the cow emojis, and all the rest of it's coming in hot at the end.
Guys, you don't want to see Dustin's face in HD. I've seen him in person. I've met him in person. It's not good. Mine, I'm greasing up. I got some Kiehl's lotion all over me. But anyway, guys, we're going to hop off. We got a great week of football ahead of us. Thanks so much for joining us on this Friday night. And definitely check out Andy's station. Goes over a lot of football, especially from the fantasy angle. That will definitely help you collect and invest. And have a great weekend, everyone.
Go Saints. Who dat?
You're stupid, Dustin.